Yes, I don't know, said the original Radio Skesnam, they are telling you for lock in and tune in. Because right now you're listening to the Wear the Crown with Rasta, Ronnie and Blood Pressure. Make sure you lock in, seeing Rasta people are chat to you. 10 pound of weed in our chariot. And yes, that's straight from west we are carry that. And when it's seal up, we chariot. And yes, that's straight from west we are carry that. And when it's seal up tight, you can't smell that. And yes, that's straight down a town, Ronnie sell that. I don't know, so this is Kesnam representing for Rasta Ronnie, yeah. Wear the crown, lock in, tune in, don't miss a thing. And make sure you listen to the king. You hear that? Rasta said that.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Well, this is Cora Fire representing for Wear the Crown podcast, you understand, hosted by Rasta Ronnie and Blood Pressure. Seeing? Every time, Cora Fire representing. Big up on yourself.
Kaboom.
Yes, yes, yes. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for Wear the Crown podcast.
Yeah.
It's my man Blood Pressure alongside myself, Rasta Ronnie.
Greetings all the Wear the Crown listeners out there.
Yes, and we got a special guest today, someone who is a local artist who is doing amazing things with interactive art, as well as all sorts of murals and canvases and all sorts of good things. My man Thomas Evans.
Hello, hello.
Yeah. And,
greetings and welcome.
Welcome to the Wear the Crown. So again, like we were talking about earlier, this is just a podcast that I like to highlight people that are doing good things in the city or in the community, and or just things that I think are talented and captivating and inspiring, and I think a lot of your art reflects that, and
nice.
That's why I invited you.
Man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man. So yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier was the spot for me. When I was younger, I was probably like 22, and going to the spot was kind of like became an addiction for me because I wanted to get better and better. And all those kids like Fate, Ray, Little Sean, Slip, all those kids I used to train around for like probably like 2 years. And I had a buddy who worked at MCI at like a phone service, like doing like cold calls and like just trying to sell long distance, which was a racket, apparently. But I met this kid named Roland, who was like, he was like, yo, man, you know how to break dance? And we'd all be in the call center, like headphones on, and I'd be looking across the room, and homie would be doing like all these poses. And he'd be like, you know how to break dance? I'd be like, no, I only know this one move, and I'd like stand on my head and like hold a pose.
Yeah,
and that was it. And he was like, man, you should come to the spot. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And so I went with him to the spot, like on I can't even remember what days I used to do it, but I went in, and I was just so blown away about the kids like how it was just an open space.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Cave and I-Tiff
Okay.
from there. And it was when he had dreads, and
Yeah.
he was Zulu Nation all day.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, bro, you got to get down with Zulu.
Yeah.
He's like, you should
He's
be
still
boy.
like that.
Yeah, he's like, you should still be boy for Zulu. And,
Yeah.
and so like I watched him be in the studio all the time, and then I'd be in the dance studio all the time, and we kind of catch each other in passing and talk and stuff, and then he kind of started getting into breaking just a little. I'd catch him in there like busting out, and I was like, that was cool.
Yeah, you know some stuff too.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I was like, so I guess where to start is like to tell people a little bit about your background, where you come from what like I was saying earlier is that I met you at the Artopia event probably like I think it was like 6-7 years ago, maybe 7 or 8.
It's probably 8
years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
At the Artopia event, and what stood out to me was you were doing these crushed vinyl records on canvas, and then you were doing like portraits of on top of that, and then there was a speaker built into the canvas where you could apply your phone to the aux cord, and it was playing music. So it was really amazing to me at the time. I was like, wow, I was about to come out my pocket and spend my tax money like right there. Yeah, it's like my wife had to tell me, nah. She's like, let's think about this. I was sold. But so that's kind of where I met you initially. And from what you told me, I think your father was in the military.
Yeah. So basically, he was West Point grad, so career military person. Grew up all over the map. spent a lot of time in Germany. That's where I graduated high school,
wow.
and then moved to Belleville, Illinois to do school. So Southwestern Illinois Community College. And then that's where I got into, well, I got into breakdancing in Germany and then really sort of honed in on it when I was over in Belleville, Illinois, right beside St. Louis. And, you know, basically through my first jam there, learned a lot, competed in Chicago around the different areas. And then when he got stationed in Denver at I forget the exact place, but he got stationed here, and wherever he goes, I get in-state tuition.
Okay.
So it's easy to get in-state tuition as a military kid. So basically moved here because there was just, you know, something different, more opportunities. And moved here. You know, I didn't know anyone, I didn't know there was black people in Denver at all, because the only thing I knew about Denver was John Elway and South Park.
Okay.
South Park had all the references. I was like, there's one black kid named Token, snows all the time. But when I moved here, it was just something different. You know, everyone was pretty open, pretty receptive. That's where I really got into the arts community, and basically went to school at honorary campus, UCD, and basically went for my bachelor's degree, which business and marketing. And then did my master's right after that because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, let me just do my master's and see what happens. But most of the time I was on campus opening up clubs, working in student life, having fun. I did like a ton of jams there. I started the Hip Hop Congress Denver campus chapter, and then basically we were throwing jams almost every other week, every month. And that's when I got really involved in sort of the...
Now, is that renting out venues and doing jams, or is like
no? Because anytime you go to, this is like something good for a lot of the kids to know. Like anytime you go to a university or a college, it's like your tuition pays for a part of student life. So like bringing in activities or starting clubs, or because a lot of the student clubs, they're able to sort of get funding from the school. They're able to use a lot of the resources at the school or on campus. So we were using the facilities on campus for free, sound system for free, getting money for free, just basically using all the resources on campus.
Gotcha.
Rather than having to sort of always go out and look for venues. So
now, don't mean to interrupt you, but that kind of, I knew there was some kind of events that were being thrown, like breakdance events down like at Auraria and certain campuses and like. I can't remember who it was, but it was like an MC was going to perform, and I was really surprised. I was like, wow, they're going to the campus to do that? Is that kind of the same thing?
Yeah. I mean, we were doing it on Auraria campus. There's this spot in Tivoli called Ziggy's Cabaret, where it was like underutilized. It was like in the basement, so there was like no windows or anything. Wow. But it was like a great spot just to have like a jam that was sort of like in a tight space. That was
checkered floor? Did it have a checkered floor?
It may have.
I felt like I went to a battle there.
Yeah, it was
like the last time I b-boy battled, and I ended up having to battle like Slip and somebody else from the same kids that I was training with, and it was cool. But that's kind of what I remember. It was like a checkered floor.
Yeah,
it was basement. Like
it was like a basement, and then because no one ever used it, and we were like, hey, we should just use this spot every month to sort of throw jams in. So that's what we did. And I did that for, a good 2 years while on campus. And then, sort of like the network grew. People came in. I met a lot of people from that. My friend Spencer Bernard and Chuck took over a lot of the sort of like the organizing. And Spencer really like took the jam from there to La Raza Park. Started throwing like the park jam there, and then started doing a bunch of stuff with it. And then from there, that's where... Queens of Hip Hop came from. So if you know Queens of Hip Hop in Denver, where it's like a B-girl jam where they have all women DJs, and then they have vendors. So it's like a lot of stuff sort of sprouted out of that. So I was super, super stoked to be sort of helping out the hip hop community, the arts community out here in terms of like
really building it.
Yeah, because like a lot of people that I know now, I knew through Hip Hop Congress because they came through Hip Hop Congress, or we did something with Hip Hop Congress with them. So, Sean Choi, DJ Lazy Eyes is like one person that I met through Hip Hop Congress, and when he was doing bass minimalism in Boulder. So it's like a lot of even the graph community. When Crush Mural Festival was just getting started through Rob and Dredd, we were doing the breakdancing competitions out there. So I was like, I wasn't really even doing murals at all, a lot of artwork. I was dancing during the first Crush Mural Festival.
Gotcha.
So it was like, that's how I sort of got into the community out here in Denver, was through the dance community.
Nice.
A lot of just like organizing. Because I kept getting injured. I was dope, but I kept getting injured, so got into DJing as well. So I was DJing, had my own tables, learning that. I had like the first, at the time he was going by DJ Vajra, using his scratch vinyl record to learn how to scratch and everything, and then learning all the ins and outs, because I was like, if I'm going to throw a jam, I want to know exactly what the DJ's talking about when they say they need this, this, and this. So I was like, let me get some tables. So got some old school Technique turntables, hooked it up, Vestax mixers, and like learned everything, learned how to do all of that. Got Serato, learned how to just, spin by myself. Went as DJ Kool-Aid for a while, was spinning all the B-boy jams, collecting all the music, because I knew what the B-boys wanted. So it was like, it was really good, because it was sort of like the B-boys liked me because I knew what they liked as well.
Yeah, it's almost like someone that like is a professional athlete and then becomes a ref. You feel more confident in their decisions on on what they're selecting and what they're choosing.
Exactly. So it was really good for a while, and then life hits you. It's like you gotta
reality.
You gotta pay bills somehow. You gotta tuition is due.
That's a real thing. I know for me, the whole b-boy thing, that's what slowed me down. Is like I have 3 kids. I actually, my oldest son is just graduated, and he's going to be 20 next year.
Oh, nice.
So it's, and then my youngest is 13, but as they kept coming, I had to slow down and reprioritize where my energy was going, because I couldn't be b-boying all the time. I mean, I used to teach my kids during the summer. All I do is go to the pool, bring out cardboard, and teach my kids how to do head spins and just learning the ropes, you know what I mean? So my daughter at 6, she was doing head spins.
Nice.
And so I was really into it a lot, but again, like financially, it just doesn't pay the bills as much as you would like. And when you're driving 3 hours to go compete across the state, and you didn't even place, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you spend the whole weekend driving down to New Mexico.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, you get back, and now the work week is here, and like, oh, I gotta go pay those bills and everything. So I mean, it definitely was. It's definitely different now. I'd say, because there's a lot of avenues, a lot more avenues to sort of go to build a platform for you to make money through whatever you like. YouTube, you teach on YouTube, teach how to do headspin on YouTube, make a whole channel. So, but that wasn't really a thing back in the day. So it's sort of like you had to sort of decide and everything. So I mean, that's why I went back to do my master's degree and tried to do advertising, because I thought, creativity sort of was in advertising. So I was like, okay, I can do my art and, use my business degree. So went to an ad firm, but hated it. Basically, we just did tourism for Wyoming and healthcare ads for the elderly. Okay. So I was like, this is, draining my creativity. And all I was doing was just like looking up stock photos of cowboys and prairies and stuff like that. So I was like, this is not for me. And then weird thing is, like, I was trying to join the military right after that, because I was like, okay, most of my family's military, and let me just do 4 years and I can get out, type of thing.
Well, what was the appeal for you? Is just like having that under your belt, or being able to, like, some people are like, oh, I can travel. Some people do it for financial gain.
Yeah, a little bit of all that, a little bit of everything. It's like, if like you get in, it's like you can sometimes pick where you want to go if you have like a good enough score, or depending on the job. So I was like, okay, let me try the Navy. So trying to do officer candidate school. So applied for that, but I tore my knee during the application process. So I did the MEPS, so I didn't even get sort of accepted after that.
Gotcha.
So I tore my my LCL doing jiu-jitsu because I love combat sports.
Okay.
Yeah, I watch UFC all the time. I was waking up this morning to watch the latest UFC fight, and basically I was doing jiu-jitsu, tried to do a move, but tore my LCL, and basically was on crutches for a while. Ended up basically sort of like trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do while I was on crutches, because I was like, I can't join the military anymore. I can't do this, and this, and I just didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. So I was at the same time donating artwork to a nonprofit called Africade, and they do a lot of stuff in Tanzania. And I was like, hey, next time you guys go to Tanzania with your sponsors, let me know, and I'll go with you, because I just want to try to get out and sort of clear my head a little bit. So they sent my contact to this guy, Peter Lewis, who runs a nonprofit called Indigenous Education Foundation of Tanzania, and he opened up a school in Orkeswa, which is the village, and it's in the Arusha region, so like near Mount Kilimanjaro.
Okay.
Close enough to Mount Kilimanjaro. And basically, he hits me up on the phone and says, hey, do you want to come to Tanzania and just do our marketing communications for a while? And I was like, yeah. So like almost the next month, I was in Tanzania.
Wow.
I didn't know anyone, didn't know the language, didn't know the religion, didn't know anything. I was like, let me just figure it out. And it was like the first time really traveling out of country without sort of like that support, because like when you're in the military, you have like what's that? OS. Ooh, it's like basically they help you out, sort of navigate when you're traveling.
Okay.
But USO.
Okay.
So basically there was like no real support when I was going to Tanzania. It was just like me with my visa and going to a place where I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
And basically lost my phone the first night I was there, which sucked. But it was like, you got to figure it out. So figured out, how to get to the village I was supposed to get to after I landed in Kilimanjaro Airport, and basically got there. And it was a good sort of 7 months of just like living in the village, connecting with the community, teaching entrepreneurship, teaching a little bit of basketball, and then basically running the marketing part or the sponsorship part for that nonprofit, because we were in a school that was in a rural area, and mainly because a lot of the schools in that country are government owned or run, and especially the secondary schools require families to pay. A lot of times that sort of blocks a lot of families that are really traditional who can't afford that. So that's why he built the school.
Yep.
So really it was like the school was in sort of like the village where a lot of the Maasai are, and it was like really pastoral, where they basically raise cattle, goats, chickens, grew maize, beans, corn, stuff like that. So basically it was like really traditional. Being out there was just like super humbling in terms of just like, I didn't have a lot of sort of technology, didn't have a lot of sort of like the distractions.
Yeah.
And really, living with people that I just met and having to learn.
Yeah. And I guarantee you probably taught some breakdancing.
Yeah. I was teaching a little bit of that. I was heavy into CrossFit as well, so like teaching some of that too. So it was just like a good time getting away from everything. And when I was there, I only had like 2 pairs of pants and a couple pairs of shirts and stuff like that. So it was like living off of just basic your necessities, and sort of having to walk everywhere, having to sort of greet people all the time, because you're walking, so you see people. It's not like you're in a car.
Oh yeah, I used to work at the hospital, and I'd be around all sorts of Africans, Eritreans, Ethiopians, people Kenyan.
Yeah.
And the one lady that I was talking to, she was like, she's like, it's so different here in America. She's like, at the bus stop at home, He's like, there'd be like 40, 50 of us just laughing and joking, and
Mhm.
everybody's talking and conversating. She said, when you get out here and you wait at the bus stop, it's like maybe there's only 5, 6 people and nobody's talking.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
all, you know what I mean? And they're all on their phones and detached from each other. And so now I get it. You know?
Yeah, you like over there, because you don't have a car, you have to walk everywhere. It's like when you see people, you have to have that greeting. You have to have that sort of way of communicating. And then not only that, it's like there's different greetings for elder. So like when I'm talking to an elder, it's a different than the greeting I talk to someone my own age, and that's different than a greeting than when I'm talking to someone that's younger than me.
Wow.
So it's like you have to learn all that. But it's like it was really, really eye-opening because that's something you would see like really in a small town. You know, the yes sir,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you know, no ma'am, things
Yep.
like that. So for me, it was like seeing that again, and then coming back here, I was like, okay, I was living over there, I was having fun, and you know, a lot of times when you meet people when you meet people over there, you see how they have to sort of live life. It's like they don't have that many chances to make mistakes, because if you make a mistake, it can cost you, or it can be dire to your next choices. So over here, it's like we can make mistakes all day. We can do that all the time. You don't even have to go to school, and you can still be successful. You
Yeah,
don't
there's
have
some safety nets.
yeah,
that are
there's a
able to
ton of
catch you.
safety nets. Like I tore my LCL. It's like I can go to the hospital easily here, even if I don't have maybe the financial, I guess, support, and still, you'll get billed, but it's like you can still go to the hospital and sort of get treated. But over there, it's like you can't do that all the time. So for me, it was like I got a lot of just like positive things that I can sort of lean on, the safety net. So I was like, let me just go out there and just try art full time. If it's unsuccessful in a year, I'll just, get the regular job type of thing. So went to my friend Adam, who bought the temple on 24th and Curtis, where my studio is now. He bought the temple, turned into artist studios, and had really affordable rent in a place where it's like, rent's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
And basically moved my studio in there and just basically started painting and trying to put together like a show for a couple of spots that were just opening up. So Cold Crush was opening up, and my friend's Metal Art Kitchen, Casey Carnes' Metal Art Kitchen, was opening up too. So I was like, let me do a body of work to put in those places and then see how it goes. So once I started doing the body of work, especially with the interactive components you were hitting on earlier, people started really taking notice. And then after I really started getting into live art and murals, that's when things started kicking into overdrive.
No, you meant like live art as in like
On stage,
yeah, doing it right
on
then.
stage. So my homie DJ AL had a night called Art and Soul at Ophelia's, and it was like, I don't know how long Ophelia's has been open when I first started, but it was like a really new venue. So it was sort of like,
seems like maybe 3 years max.
yeah, it was like I'd never seen a venue like that, where it's like you can eat food, you can look down and see like a concert, and it's like a big dance floor, and not only did executives go there, but like all the homies went there too during those certain nights. So it was like I could get people sort of excited about me painting a Marvin Gaye or James Brown or a Rakim or something like that. And then I had the people, like the execs, willing to pay for it type of thing. So I was on stage making money as I was painting.
Yeah.
So it was really good to do that for almost a year. And basically it was just live painting all the time.
Yeah.
And that went really well. So that sort of started bringing in income faster. I started learning acrylics, because before it was oils, which takes longer. So using acrylics, it was like I can sort of paint and have it dry really fast, and then sell it, and people are able to just take it off the canvas right then and there. So I was making ends meet. I was making funds, and then once I got into a lot of the mural stuff, that's when, people who weren't at Ophelia's or at my studio or went to the restaurants where I hung my work, they could discover my work by just walking down the street on a certain block, and they would see my mural. So once the mural started hitting, everything, like all the pistons were hitting at the same time. So now it's like
Momentum.
Yeah, the
strong.
momentum was going. My Art Tip Tuesdays on my Instagram post where I help other artists sort of figure out how to sort of navigate the art world. That was really hitting. So everything was just hitting at the same time, and sort of like this momentum started building, and then people started knowing me, and then, people started asking for commissions. And
The name of your studio what's the name of it?
So a studio, I don't have a name of the studio, but the building that it's in is called the Temple.
Okay.
The Temple.
Okay.
So like that's where I pretty much made almost 90% of my work is at the Temple.
Okay.
And still to this day, a lot of my work is made at the Temple, other than the mural stuff that's on location. But got into doing residencies as well. So moving to different parts of the world. So like last year was France. I went to France for a month and basically worked with 8 other artists to sort of, just live in a chateau on the French Riviera.
Nice.
And basically just work on a project, and sort of like met them. 2 of them had like Guggenheim I think it was fellowships, and so they were really top notch sort of.
One of my favorite, I think he's French, is Lumet. Is that Lumet? It does the big 3D, like he has the 3-dimensional.
Okay, yeah.
And does the big 3D ones,
Yeah.
and I think he's French.
Yeah, there's a lot, like a lot of times most of the dopest artists come from like some like a country or a city that has like rich history, or like they're going through some turmoil or something like that. Like Brazil has a ton, Poland has a ton, Russia has a ton. So like a lot of these places that have really dope artists, are also sort of like going through something, and I think that's like one reason why they're so dope.
Yeah, no. So my mother, she's a nurse, and she's been a nurse my whole life. But like probably about 10 years ago, she started an organization called One World Running. So they would donate shoes to other countries that don't have shoes. So while she goes on volunteer, like to do volunteer work with the hospital or with a group of nurses and doctors, they'll go to other countries, do vaccines, or they'll do whatever on site. She's been to like Cameroon, to Brazil, to Cuba, to Haiti, to Indonesia, and to Honduras. That's where she's from. So while she's there, in the last like 5-6 years, she started becoming a curator. She started collecting all these arts from local, from artists that live in the country.
Yeah.
So right now, I can't tell you the brother's name, but she'd beat me up right now. But the artist he's featured in the airports in Cuba right now.
Oh, nice.
A lot of his pieces, and so all the art she's brought back.
Yeah.
She's built a gallery on the side of her house. She's probably got at least $2 million invested, and now it's got to the point where she just really needs to move a lot of it, because she's got such a catalog and a collection that she's sitting on, that it's like it does no good if you can't really get it the exposure it needs to get it out there. But so I've talked to her about this whole podcast thing that I started, and now she's like, we can go to these other countries and we can do a podcast with the artists, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
man. Like, I mean, you'll get like on my Instagram, I get DMs, asking for advice or just like collaborations from people all over the world. Yeah. Someone was just in the Bahamas, had a gallery in the Bahamas, didn't really get hit that bad, but he wanted to do some like a show to sort of help raise money. So he was reaching out to me, or Haiti, Brazil. I had a couple of people in Russia ask me for some work to hang in the gallery. But I mean, like with the internet and social media, it's like you're getting sort of like this smaller and smaller world where it's like the arts community sort of just is more accessible than ever. I mean, that's like one of the reasons I'm writing a book now about how to have like a sustainable art career, and trying to sort of talk about how to navigate the world now, because you don't have to have a gallery representation or an agent. It's great to have that because it is a lot of work. I'm always busy, and they can get you into some certain spaces, but you don't have to have that to sort of get out there in the world today and have art be your main source of income. I was just watching the news, and they had like this kid who made 26 million just on YouTube this year, and I was like, damn, man.
No.
I'm hustling backwards, man.
Hence the podcast, my brother. Because I heard somebody talking that they got sold a podcast, just the idea of they had the content of like, oh, this is what our show is, this is what we talk about, and it went for $3 million.
Really?
Just the
idea?
Yeah.
Woo!
So, you know what I mean? So like, and that's what, like, just you hit it on the head as far as like me in the cannabis industry. I've definitely, when I first started and like my account started to get a lot of traction, and I had people from all over the world like hitting me. Even now, still like, hey, wanting advice on. I even started a Grow Tip Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was you who inspired it, but I was like, man, I should probably do this too. And I tried to do that for a little bit, and I'm like, maybe this isn't, it's kind of, you got to find your niche and be able to navigate. Because like the same thing with the podcast, it's like I've had to learn how to do all the getting it onto iTunes, getting it on Spotify, dealing with the audio, clips, editing. All those things I just didn't think I'd have to do. I just was like, I'd like to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And then I'm you know what I mean, roped into the actual, but I'm learning the trade is how I feel about it. Yeah. I'm learning something that I can either educate people on, or that's going to be
a lot of work,
be substantial somewhere in the future. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of work because, I was like, should I do a podcast? Because like the Art Tip Tuesdays that I do, I've been doing it for about 4.5 years. Never missed a Tuesday, so consistency is like the most important part.
That's what happened to me. Is like I got to a point. I did like 5 of them in a row.
Yeah,
and I was like, and the other thing is content. You want to have solid content and not repeat yourself. And things like that. And then I think I missed a Tuesday, and I was like, damn.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And you can't fall behind the gate. Consistency.
Consistency is super important because. When I travel out and people see me, like one of the first things they say is the Art Tip Tuesday. So I try to make sure I always have an art tip on Tuesday. And it went from, and I wouldn't say this is sort of like a good, I wouldn't say a hack, but just a way of making it sustainable. It went from like trying to do this dynamic content that has video cuts and jump cuts and sort of like demonstrations and demos of like technique and everything, to actually content that wasn't really sort of talked about. Is like just me talking about how to navigate a negotiation with a contractor or a developer, or how do you sort of talk to how do you get involved in the community when you just moved there, type of thing. Because a lot of that stuff is it's not visual, it's just more talking about those techniques. It's not flashy, but it is part of the whole picture. And it's being able to pull content from all of it. And I think I think that's cool. That's moving. It's cool that people respond to that. When they see you, they respond to that more, because you actually that it's benefiting them somehow because of the advice that goes alongside it. Awesome. I mean it's like one of the things where it's kind of like I always want to be the artist that I would want to meet. So it's like I have to. That's why I answer DMs all the time. So like when you hit me up, I was like, let me open it up. See at least what's happening. I appreciate you. I've commented a couple times when you've liked it and responded. So it's always been cool. I'm like, cool, man. Like it kind of. Like you said, you could admire people, and then like the person that they are, when you meet them or you have a interaction with them, you can kind of, it can fall short, and you can be like let down. I've definitely ran into some major artists that I'm like, not just art, but in the music world where I'm looking up to, and then when I meet them, I was like, damn, man, that kind of sucks. Dude was kind of crabby. You know? So, but to each their own, and no, that's cool that you reach out to people and you respond, interact with them. Because when I was on campus, I was doing events and promotion and sort of lectures or extracurricular activities. So booking speakers, bringing them in, and like the speaker that sort of I would say people loved to sort of be around was Chuck D. Okay. So when we brought him to campus, I met him. Because usually, like, when you read their writer, like, what's required for them to come and everything, like the 5-star hotel, flights and all this, and, transportation from the hotel to the campus or wherever they're speaking. And, we did that for Chuck, and then we thought we were sending the taxi or the limo to go get him, and he just walks from the hotel over here because he just wanted to see the city and everything. So it was just like cool just to sort of like meet him sort of halfway and just like talk to him. And he was just like one of the most warmful individuals, especially when he was sort of giving advice to students and everything. And you know, it's like meeting your hero, or people that you sort of looked up to for the longest time, and sort of having a great experience. But yeah, I mean, there was some people that we brought were like, oh, why did we spend this money to bring this person? But yeah, like wanting to sort of make sure that I'm sort of an individual that people have a good experience. Like you want people to sort of feel better about themselves after sort of ending a conversation with you or walking away from a conversation with you. So whenever I'm sort of in that situation, it's like I want to make sure that people feel better about themselves after sort of encountering me. Because you just want to put that positive energy out in the world for the most part, because you know it's a shitty world. So it's like, you know, you want to make it at least a little bit better. And it's like that karma is just basically, you know, rotating and sort of circulating and everything. So you want to make sure, you know, when you're in a situation that people treat you nice and everything. So I try to do as much as I can, especially online. When, you know, people hit me up and ask for advice. That's where the Art Tip Tuesday comes from, is like me just always answering questions, and then, okay, the questions that get asked the most, let me sort of hit on that.
Nice.
So I did that, and then basically it just started to evolve in more of the nuances of the art world, and that's just more just talking about it, because usually it's something that you just learn over time, and it's not really talked about in books because sometimes it changes over time. But, you know, like, one of the biggest ones is like relationship building. A lot of the opportunities that I get are because of the people that know me, or the people that I've met, or a lot of the big jobs that I have this upcoming year because of the jobs I had previously. So they had a good experience working with me, and they tell someone else, and then, you know, that sort of hits, and then, you know, I get that opportunity. Or even with residencies, when I apply for residencies and they have like a selection committee, maybe one or two people may know about me, but the others don't. But those one or two people are able to say, you know, I know this individual, and they champion me in that sort of selection process and everything.
Yeah, and then you can't, you know, don't want to burn any bridges, and I'll try to keep all those bridges open. And it's the same thing with me. I feel like maybe not financially it's benefited me, but but in the cannabis world, I feel like I have a good name. At least I try to have that good representation and be that, like you said, that person that you have that good interaction with, and you leave away feeling good, not someone that is like boastful or, you know, leaning one side, and you know what I mean?
It just sucks your energy, you know.
It sucks your energy, or put you can be standoffish and things like that. And so that's cool. That's a good way to look at things, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really, really good. Fortunate because, you know, a lot of the people that I have around me since like the Hip Hop Congress days has been really, really sort of supportive, and that's sort of who I lean on whenever I'm trying to do events today, because, you know, I just had a current exhibit called the 5 Pointers. Basically, it's like a
and that was I was going to ask you about that. Now, that's geared toward, the title was for the people of 5 Points.
I mean, it was based on 5 points, so I wanted, well, to go back a little bit, the exhibit I wanted to be able to sort of get outside of what I was doing a little bit and venture into storytelling, fabrication, a bunch of stuff, and then also sort of showcase the stuff that I was good at. So I was like, okay, let me create this show called or let me create a band in the future where I could tell the story of the band through a museum. So, you know, when you walk into a museum, it's like they have every different sort of object or painting to sort of tell the story of an individual or an organization or, you know, a group of people. So I was like, okay, let me make this space into a museum. That way I can sort of do all different types of things. So that's where the foundation of that idea came from. And then the story was basically, let me figure out a way to sort of tell that story, or figure out a way to sort of create a museum. So I was like, let me tell a story about a band in the future, about 100 years from now, and sort of talk about this area, because it's going to be showcased in this area. So let me talk about how this area changes over the next 100 years, and how that sort of is filtered into music. So basically, it was getting that idea together, and then leaning on the people that I knew to sort of help me out with that. So hit up my friend Felix Fast Forward, DJ Check One, Carl Carell, and Venus Cruz to say, hey, I want you guys to come together to be a band. And they're dope in their own sort of individual careers, but it's like them together. They never sort of done anything together, so it was like really interesting to see how that was going to play out. And then leaning on people that I knew who could be great when it comes to fabrication or bringing an idea to life. So having Ryan Langan sort of build the 6-foot-tall harp that sort of goes in 2 different directions and build like this drum set from a dream type of thing. So building and fabricating instruments from my, imagination.
Yeah.
So we got together and sort of figured out, and he had the idea of like making a double harp, which was really dope. And then reaching out to another individual I didn't know at the time. I found him on Google Images to build a electric motorcycle that runs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like reaching out to them and then partnering with Red Bull. So the people in Red Bull, I've been working with them for, over half a decade, almost 8 years, on and off with like different projects. So when I was working with my other friends who were doing Grow Project clothing, they were working with Red Bull, so I was working with them through Grow Project, or doing posters for them, block party posters, or being involved in some of their other art events. So like working with them for a long time, but then I had like the idea where I was like, I want you to sponsor it, or I want you to partner with me on it. And then because of a lot of the people then are now sort of the decision makers now, it's like they knew of my name and they knew of my work and they knew of a lot of the people that I was working with as well. So it's kind of like it was a no-brainer for them to say, yeah, let's definitely figure out how we can support this project. So they partnered with me and basically put it under their music, Red Bull Music umbrella, and then the Red Bull Music Presents umbrella. So basically they liked the idea that there was going to be live performances at the actual venue. And they were like, okay, this could be like under our Music Presents, which is normally concerts, like straightforward concerts. So they were like, let's do that. So basically it was sort of like a art show / concert that they supported. And a lot, like all of that was through the friendships and the relationships that I built over the past decade since being in Denver. So it was a lot of sort of just patience in terms of when I have that right idea and some of the people involved. It's like that's when I sort of put it out there, and everything sort of came together to have a show where it was like you're walking around the venue, you're seeing all these different items and sort of artifacts that are actually the artwork, and you're learning about the story through those individual items. And then when you're at the end, it's like everything comes together to sort of tell the story of what happens to this band in the future in 5 points. And it's sort of like a story where each individual is sort of spotlighted in a way, and then at the end of it, they all come together at the show and sort of perform 40 minutes of music. So like they actually created an entire album of music just for the show, and they created the music on the instruments that I created. And it was only they had maybe a month to sort of prepare, because doing a show like this is like you have a lot of things that you have to get done before you do the next piece. So like I had to get the instruments sort of designed, and then the fabricator can sort of figure out how to build it, and then the fabricator has to build it, and then I have to paint it, and then I have to sort of outfit it with the electronics, and then I have to sort of deliver it. So that took almost, I'd say, 8 months to actually get to the artist. And
now, in your mind, when starting that, did you realize that going into it, or was that something you were like, oh man, this is gonna take longer than I thought? Or
yeah, it's gonna take longer than I thought. The venue that we had actually changed, and we had to push it back 2 months, which was like a blessing in disguise, because I would not have gotten everything done by then. And really, it was something where it was kind of like I gave myself a good amount of time, almost a year. But still, it was like I didn't know exactly what I was getting into until I got into it and had to figure out exactly how long it was going to take for a lot of this stuff to get done. Because you're working on other people's schedules, too. Yeah. So it's like the fabricator, has other projects he has to get done. So I was working with that. I was working with the stuff. I have stuff I have to get done, like out of town murals or different projects, so I couldn't really finish things on time like I wanted to. But then even adjusting the storyline based off of, this sort of what I was capable of doing as well. But, by the end of it, we got a space at Redline Contemporary Art Center, and I basically built the show specifically for that space. So everything just fits in that space nice. And really, like, once we did the opening, it was dope. It was like I said, it was like an art show in the form of a museum that had a story, so people were learning the story. And then we even got like newspapers made, so like regular newspapers that you could pick up, and it would be the Denver Times, and you would open it up and had fake stories about the future. So like you're actually
That's
engulfed
cool.
in the future.
Yeah.
And then you would walk around, and then at the end of it, the band sort of comes in and plays music, good albums worth of music, and just perform on those actual sculptures and artifacts that I created
That's really cool.
for the show. So it was a good experience for me just to try to do a show that was different than 2D works on the wall.
Definitely really conceptual as far as like the different contrasts of what you're saying, as far as the art from being interactive to having like this whole world that you've created, you know what I mean? And to tell a story, to have it in story form in a museum style, like that's so
Yeah, it was like learning how to tell a story. I had my friend Alan Brooke come over and sort of help me sort of figure out exactly what or how to build characters, and like, it's like how do I tell this part of the story? How do I sort of bridge that gap? And he was just trying to help me out when it came to figuring out how to move the characters around, or how to make the story progress even further, how to build the crescendo, the conclusion, or how to start something, or like subplots and things like that. So it was really, really interesting just to figure out storytelling. So I got into like my writing bag when it came to that exhibit. So really it's just like a show where it's like I grew a lot, and then figuring out, okay, where can I take this further after this show? Where can this show go, and then how can I add to it, or what next iteration, what does that look like in the future? So that's where I am now, and just in terms of figuring out what's the next steps in terms of the shows that I do. It's like I don't want to go back to just doing 2D work on a wall. It's like I got to add something else to it to make it more exciting and more immersive. So for me, it's really just trying to figure that out. Figure out where that goes, what that looks like, what type of story, what do I want to take from this this show that I loved? What do I sort of axe from the next one because it didn't work out? How do I sort of cater the venue, because the venue was really important. The spacing of the items were really important to sort of have a performance in there as well. So it's like, it's not just people walking around, it's like a performance. So where do people look at? So what spacing, or how do I lay out the actual pieces? The flow of how pieces sort of digest the story was really important. So it's like the space or the placement of pieces as they flow is really important. That's like based off of human behavior.
Feng shui.
Yeah, the feng shui. Like, how do you sort of add that to the actual gallery space is another thing. And then the interactive work is another thing too. It's like, how do people want to interact with the pieces?
The one thing that I'm getting from you is you're really motivated and doing a lot of different things. What motivates you, where does this come from?
I'd say I definitely love art and sort of like being a creator, but my thing is like, I want to do something different than everyone else. So if someone would have done this idea before, it's like I would have axed it a long time ago, but no one has done something like this before. So that's what excited me about this project. No one ever tried to like do an entire museum with a band and storytelling and sort of put that in a gallery space. So it was like, how do I make myself different than every other artist telling a story in a gallery? Or how can I make this a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, do you think it's like the challenge of it all? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I tell artists, I think I put in one of the Art Tip Tuesdays, like you got to do the things that other artists aren't willing to do, and this was a lot of work. You know, it's like it cost a lot of money. Like, good thing it wasn't my money, you know, because like I had to figure out how to get funding for it. Yeah. You know, a lot of artists would sort of stop there. It was like, oh, well, I can't afford that. You know, a lot of artists would have said, you know, I want to have full control over everything, but to bring the collaborators that I did, it's like you can't have control over everything. You got to let people do what they do. So like learning how to manage a team, a lot of artists don't want to do. A lot of artists don't want to deal with a lot of the stuff that I had to deal with.
The work of it.
Yeah, the work of it. So it's like, that is why this was something I was like, this is something I need to sort of do, because, you know, a lot of artists don't do it. That's why I haven't seen it before. Yeah,
you could learning curve to where, you know, bigger and better, you'll be able to do bigger and better things.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And be that one person that's known for doing that. And,
exactly.
How did you get into like I noticed there's some stuff in the Colorado Contemporary Art Museum, and then also in the Aspen Museum?
So there was work in the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center.
Okay.
And that was, I actually had to take that down 2 days ago. Into December, because it was only there for 3 months.
Okay.
And that was through Joy Armstrong, who was working there at the time. She liked my interactive work, and they never really had anything interactive in that space before. It's like near the entrance space where they wanted the interactive installation. So creating something for that space was really interesting. So I created like a string installation where people could touch the string and trigger the different sounds, and I would be able to change the sounds remotely from Denver whenever I wanted to. So it was like a way of creating an installation where, regardless of age, you're able to explore what's on there, and it sort of mimicked like an abstract landscape in a way. So it was really interesting to do that. And then I did an installation in a game lounge in Snowmass, a new sort of ski resort development base camp sort of area, and that was basically more of not a string installation, but more of like a mural on the wall that you could touch. So different spaces on the wall that you could touch and trigger the different sounds. So that one was a lot more corporate than anything, but it was like really interesting because it was the largest interactive installation that was permanent now to actually do. So that one stays up there. So you can actually go up to that space and actually go into that game lounge. I think it's city property, so it's like anyone can go in there and actually mess around with it. So that one was my largest interactive installation mural ever.
Good location, good reference.
Yeah,
you can be like, yeah, man, I got my stuff in Aspen, and it's permanently there. You know what I mean? Because that's like a lot of people go through there. I mean, I lived on the Western Slope for 3 years with the weed business, like moved me out there.
Okay.
Didn't know anything about it. It was kind of like a culture shock for me and my kids. And like,
I
didn't know it, you know, like that whole rule, living in a valley. And then I was working in Aspen, and like you said, it's super corporate, but a lot of people go through there.
Yeah.
The traffic, they were saying, because I worked for the ski resort for about 2 weeks, and they said that they compared all the vacations that you could possibly take across the world, like from France to Disneyland, to Disney World, and to if you were to come to Aspen, and it was for a family of 5 for 8 days, how much it would cost. And by far, Aspen was the most expensive. It was like $25,000 for 8 days for a family of 5 if they went and enjoyed all the amendments, and they went and had food and all that stuff.
It's a lot of money up
there.
there.
It was like in like France was like $15,000 maybe, but like the Aspen was way more. But they were just basically what I was saying is that it's just so many people are coming and going from all over the world because it's such a tourist spot. It's a really good place to have.
It's a lot of people, man. It's like, it was weird because I think there's a huge Chilean population, or
Argentina,
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 because I'm trying to go to Argentina 4th of January for a week or two.
They come in like when the ski season's hitting. So like maybe a month after it's really started.
Yeah.
And it's like a flood of Argentinians from all
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
They roll in packs, bro.
Yeah, I knew like they said a huge South American population is always there. So like when I was talking to my friend Paul, he just moved back to Argentina or Buenos Aires for a little bit, and that's why I'm going down to Buenos Aires now to see him and like work out there. But he was like, yeah, it's really quiet in Buenos Aires because it's summer and it's hot, and a lot of people sort of go other places during that time of year. So that explains it then.
Yeah.
Right there,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was like a really good time, sort of being up there, sort of hanging out and sort of like putting work in that space.
Now, do you see like Colorado or Denver as being like a home base for you, or because it seems like you're doing a lot of traveling? And
Yeah.
Do you feel like this is home, or like where you want to stay rooted, or do you see yourself moving abroad anywhere?
This is definitely a place I like want to stay rooted, but also 6 months at a time spend in other places.
Yep.
I'm always looking for residencies out of country or out of state to sort of move me in terms of opportunity in different areas of life. I love doing visual arts, but it's like I also want to do like video work and photography work. I just want to be creative. So a lot of times like you have to go to other places to sort of sometimes do that. So I was in Atlanta earlier this year, and I was just surprised about a lot of the opportunities that they have in terms of just like the film and entertainment industry. But like seeing how the visual arts sort of play into it and the murals sort of play into it. So I was like, there's a lot of sort of connections I can make down there.
That whole Tyler Perry thing, thinking about that, now that you brought that up, made me think.
Yeah,
that's a big opportunity for minorities and people in that community and in that area, in that region, you know what I mean, to kind of highlight those type of works.
Yeah, I was on that military base that he's on.
Okay.
It's large enough that, I mean, any military base that you see is like, those things are like entire cities. So he has like part of it, which is still a large part, but then there's other parts where it has like some other like empty buildings that are still sort of looking for someone to acquire that space. But then one of my friends, Occasional Superstar, has his artist studio on the same base. So that's why I was on the base, just not in the Tyler Perry area. But just like seeing or just talking to him about a lot of the opportunities that they're getting out there when it comes to like the film and sort of the television industry and just like different projects you can sort of get into. Because for me, it was like I love Colorado, but you can only do so much because there's not that sort of network of people where it's like, this executive from this studio or this agent who is doing the next curatorial for this art project is just walking down the street type of thing.
No, that's what I was talking to my mom about, even with her art as well, and like, reaching out to other where those avenues are, where that flow of energy, because like living on the East Coast or living on the West Coast, those networks, people are moving so fast. It's already, Yeah,
and sometimes it's not who you know, but like who knows you. So it's like, how do I get them to know me? And it's like you can only do so much online. Internet is great, social media is great, but sometimes you just have to be in front of people or have them in front of your work. So like trying to think about that in different ways, because it's like you working with some of these large advertising agencies, or you have a curator for the MoMA. It's like you got to have them sort of come across your work, sometimes more so physically, rather than just online type of thing, because anyone can get to them online, but they're only in certain spaces.
You don't get the same appreciation by being in person physically to be able to be like, wow, this is really good.
So it's like that's why you have to sort of get out there, and that's what I'm trying to do as much as that. So with the book stuff, because I'm writing a book, it's like that's why I'm trying to do more traveling outside of Colorado.
Now, do you have help writing the book, or is it just you?
No,
sitting down, I'm gonna write a book.
That was me writing, just like I was just vomiting all the sort of things that I've been learning through the art world, and it's more like a guide, a coach type of book, because the left side is the text, the right side is like space for you to take notes, doodle, search terms that I want you to search, quotes by other artists, or questions I want you to answer. So it's like more of a working book, to where by the end I want it to be sort of highlighted and written in, and sort of like you own the book. You can't resell it because you want to go back to it for a reference and everything. So that's the type of book that I'm doing. And that one I've been writing for about a year, and that's at the printers now, getting printed through the publisher Fulcrum and Golden, and the distributor IPG is in Chicago. So once that
I'm just a novice, but how does that work when it comes to like doing a book? And then say if like you have all that written out, and you're like okay, do you put this in front of someone to review? Ooh, and then they review it, they determine if it's worth publishing? Is that kind of the...
For me, I don't know. Definitely, I think I did it the other way around, where it was sort of like I went to them with nothing, and basically it was just an idea. My friend Oren Lomena, I told him about my ideas of writing a book, and then he reached out to a couple publishers, and one of the publishers reached back to us and said, "Hey, we know your work. We did like a couple of shots in front of it for another book and everything, in front of my mural." And they did a studio visit, and we were I was telling them about the book that I wanted to write, and then basically my Art Tip Tuesdays. So when they saw the Art Tip Tuesdays and sort of like the engagement that was happening, they were like, yes. So they automatically was like, yes. And I didn't have anything written at all. So I was like, now I have to actually write it. Yeah. So it was like a good, fire under my butt in terms of like a deadline. That was, and then, I was really adamant. Like, I want to get this out as soon as possible. They were like, okay, then this is your deadline. I was like, okay, now I got to figure it out. So it was good, I'd say, let's say 7 months of writing. So basically, I had most of the ideas sort of in my head, just getting it out in a way that's easily digestible for someone like me or younger to sort of digest and sort of just take in. That's different than how other books are sort of communicating that same sort of topic. So like I said, like a relationship building, or I have a section in there called the mentality of like the new artist, or the artist commandments. No means no. So like that's not in other books right there. So it's like all these little things that you sort of have to sort of instill to sort of make it as creative today, because you have to be more entrepreneurial. You have to sort of like be more of a self-starter. Yep. You have to sort of figure out how to engage people, even though you're an introvert, because I don't like going out. Like I rarely go out, but sometimes that's where you meet a lot of people. So how do you sort of navigate being an introvert, or someone who like wants to watch Law and Order reruns, but still sort of make those connections at a gallery space without feeling awkward, type of thing. So it gets into sort of that part of sort of being a creative. It's like, how do you sort of navigate that and still be successful, and sort of have like these little hacks to sort of help you get further in your creative career, or just have a sustainable practice. It doesn't have to be full time. It just has to sort of consistency, and not sort of like take resources out of your normal life, type of thing. Like I don't want you to sort of be like, either I gotta buy baby food, or I gotta buy brushes. So it's like, I want it to be sort of like your practice helps you out in your life and doesn't take anything away. So that is sort of what I wanted to do. And they saw the Art Tip Tuesdays. They were like, hey, this is great. Have the manuscript done by this date. And basically, I opened up a Google Drive and sort of made little chapter sections, and then started writing in each of those, and started building them up over the course of, a good 6 months. And then basically also got quotes from different people. So I reached out to other artists that I liked and said, hey, do you have a quote, or can I send you some questions, and can you answer these? And sort of like peppered those into the book as well. So it's like not just from my perspective, it's from other people's perspectives. And then really just like try to make something that's sort of manageable. So it's not like a full-on textbook. It's like more of a moleskin-sized journal. That's easy to carry around. So it's like easy for you to sort of just take it in your studio, or take it to a coffee shop, or doodle in it while you're just reading.
No, do they, again, I'm just a novice, so I don't really know, but do they give you an advance up front to be able to sustain you while you're writing? Or is it like, hey man, I You know, 'cause
Yeah.
to prioritize, I know you
Yeah.
got to pay bills, and it's
Yeah.
like, how do you have 7 months to sit down and write every day when I'm sure
Yeah.
there's murals and projects and things going on.
Yeah, so for this one it was different because, I didn't know anything about it. And then doing some research, it's like, especially nowadays with the Amazon and audiobooks and all these other platforms where it's like you can self-publish your book all day. Anyone can do it. So it's a rough time for publishers. So a lot of times they don't give advances to like new authors that are unproven.
Yeah, something that's established.
Yeah.
That's got a
It's
good
like-
name behind it. They're probably like, oh yeah, we'll catch you.
J.K. Rowling would get, she can do whatever she wants to.
Yeah.
She'll get the bag, It's
Yeah.
like anyone that's is proven. Tom Clancy can sort of get the advancement, but someone like me who's just like, I just want to write a book and I don't have anything written. It's like they're not going to give you an advance. But it's like once you have the stuff written, that's when you get into sort of the percentages of, the profits that come in. But for me, it was more about getting sort of the brand, my name, and sort of access to different spaces. So now it's like trying to get into colleges, trying to get into some of these different areas.
One of the next questions I was going to ask you, if you were going to teach, do any courses. I ran into a friend at a Christmas party just a couple days ago that was like, I was telling him that I was going to have you on, and he's like, "Oh, what?" He's like, "I sat in a course at I think it was Fort Collins." He's like, "I sat in on a course that he taught and was speaking at, or something." And I was like, "He's like, let him know that one of your students was there."
Yeah, it was because I do some random stuff with schools. So it's like always like going. I feel like the uncle going in like, doing like a lecture or two and then bouncing out type of thing. So I like doing that a lot because, teaching's hard, man. It's like you got to manage personalities and work with the school.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't want to be like a regular professor or teacher. It's like I want to do it in my own way. So that's how the book sort of comes in. It's like I want to sort of teach my own way.
You can come in and actually talk about the book, and then it gives you don't have to stay.
I don't have to stay, but like for me, it's like with the book, it opens up a dialogue, and that's when I can get into like a live Art Tip Tuesday type of thing where people ask questions and sort of like we're going around trying to answer it. It's like trying to find the best solution for that artist and everything.
And to think, just thinking about it, that's pretty, if you get the book going and then with your background as far as like the organizing, you could create some pretty big events on campuses with what you're doing, I feel like. And as far as how far you're going.
Yeah, trying to figure out how that looks once the book is out, like what type of events I want to do, rather than just like a regular book signing. Like how to like I said earlier, it's like I want to do stuff different than other people.
Yeah.
So how can I make my book signings different than other people? How can I make my lectures different than other people? Because I've done it the way other people have done it, and it's like sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss type of thing. So like how can I add another element to it? And like now, because like with the art show that I just did, I borrowed from the music industry. So like with the events I want to do with the book, it's like I'm going to borrow from like the new podcast sort of touring podcast industry or culture that's sort of growing. It's like, how do they get people engaged when all they're doing is really just talking?
Yeah.
I've been sort of like looking at all these other podcasts that tour.
That was supposed to have, you were going to be the first one. I was going to have a video to go with the audio.
Yeah.
I met a guy who does videography or whatever, and but he's got the flu. So he texted me this morning. He's like, "Hey man, I'm not going to be able to make it." So he's like, "I didn't want to risk getting everybody sick." But that's kind of the next phase for me, is being able to have the video with the audio. The video is so important.
Yeah.
Especially because you got it on YouTube, and just to be able to correlate the two, because. And until the podcast is known to where people are just going to it and pulling it up, there's got to be a different point of reference, and like that video, I feel like, is the next step.
I even looked at that Mevo. This is like a live streaming little camera that can do sort of like the stuff. Yeah. So like I was looking at that for like doing different events and sort of live stuff. So like totally what you were saying is like trying to make sure I'm on some of these different platforms, and YouTube's like one right now is like you can have your own sort of television station on YouTube. So like having that sort of in the mix when it comes to the events that I do with the book and everything. Yeah, it's just like how do I have something different in terms of speaking to someone or speaking to a community about art and getting them engaged to where they want to go to the next event or keep listening and then get the book and sort of get the next iteration of the book.
What's the title of the book?
Be the Artist.
Be the Artist.
Be the Artist is the title, and then trying to, if this book goes really well, trying to do the next iteration of it, but then add in more stuff that I sort of didn't put in this one. Because every time I look back, I'm like, man, I should have added that. I should have added that. I should have added that. But I guess every author sort of says that at the beginning. It's like you always want to go back and add some stuff to it. But that's the
second book.
Yeah, the second book right there. But then like trying to build like a community behind the book like I did with the Art Tip Tuesday. How do I sort of build that? So that's where the book came from, is the Art Tip Tuesdays.
Yeah, man. I see a bright future for sure with everything you're talking about. I mean, I think sky's the limit, bro. I think with the motivation you have, the perception, your drive, and just listen to you talk. I mean, definitely I've thought of a couple different things in my mind that I'm like, man, if he did that, you'd be doing what you could blow up. Like if just with the book alone, being able to have like book signings and whatever in like say Chicago and one of those areas that are up and coming that has a little bit of an art culture to it, and have the interactive art along with the book signing to have bring that brand to the town, to the city or whatever. I mean that's the goal right now, is like to get the book out there. So it's not just me sort of getting out there just through the murals or the artwork. It's like educating people as well. Yeah, because it's hard for like a lot of artists, like when you reach out to them online, it's like you get no answer back type of thing. So it's sort of hard to ask questions. And, a lot of times, well, before it was like a lot of artists were really secretive of like the process and sort of how to get around, because everyone's sort of like feeling like there's only so much pie to go around. But now it's like, well, you don't have to sort of just stay in your lane over here. It's like you can go to other lanes and grow your pie type of thing. So now it's like, that's the way I always thought. So like that's why people were really sort of open to asking me questions. I was open to answering questions. So that's like the vibe I gave off online. So that's why I think I grew a good following because of that, because people could ask me anything. Yeah. So whereas other artists, it's like it's hard to get them to sort of open up and share because they feel like they're in competition. Yeah. But for me, it's like I just want to keep sharing. So hopefully I build a community like that with the book that helps me to sort of travel around a little bit more, because I like traveling a lot and like sort of building with different communities. But, sometimes I just want to have it different than sort of I'm having to go paint all the time. Yeah. Because sometimes you just don't want your love to sort of turn into like the job that you have to do all the time, or you're relying on it all the time. Because sometimes like my back always hurts now, and I'm like, I just want to sit and chill and just relax, and this would be a great time for me to like do a lecture at this campus or something like that, rather than just like having to go paint in another country. Yeah, no, so I completely understand. I'm making hash for for like 6-7 years, and the physical, I don't think people really grasp. Like, so solventless hash versus BHO, anything that's a solvent is made in a machine. Anything that's done with ice and water, usually it's an artisan's to it. There's a technique, and it's different for everyone. But man, after about 6 years of doing it, when then I had a downtime where like for a year I wasn't doing it, I could feel my shoulder and my back, how I was walking, and like I was like, wow, man, that really was taking a toll on me. I had no idea. So now I get it, Yeah, like my back right now is like always burning right now. So it's like and it's partly because I haven't been in the gym in a long time. Do a lot of yoga or stretching or anything? So I mean, I used to do a lot. I used to do more yoga, a lot more stretching, because I was dancing too. Yeah. And then when I got into jiu-jitsu, I was doing a lot of that. But like when I started doing art full time, that's when like everything sort of stopped, and sort of like everything became about the art. And then I didn't go to the gym for a good like almost 3 years. At one point, so it was sort of like I could feel it, like my whole body just aching, because so like my core was sort of like not where it was
used to being, and then now it's like I'm trying to get back into the gym a little bit more, trying to get back into sort of just like taking care of my body more than anything. Like I just turned 35, so I'm like, I can feel myself, you know, slowly.
Yeah, I know,
you know,
bro.
getting up there, and it's kind of like, I mean, I'm not old, but it's sort of like, you know, it's like you're not the fastest person in the room or the strongest person in the room anymore, in like your 20s. But it's like I want to make sure I'm still sort of really fit to really do anything. And I use LeBron James as my barometer because I'm like, I'm a month older than him.
Okay.
And he's still like dominating the NBA. So I'm like, damn, dude, I can't. Yeah, it's like it's too early for me to sort of like get old. So I'm like, I gotta still get into the game, man. So like even like still trying to like get into the dance studio and like at least practice a little bit, just to sort of get my sort of dexterity back and flexibility back a little bit, because you know it's like sometimes I see these older people who take care of themselves. They look young, man. They get it. So I'm like, I gotta do that right there.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I actually was super active, breakdancing, snowboarding, all that stuff up until like I was 31. And I went and was moving from apartment to a different place, and I was doing all the loading and unloading myself, so I overexerted myself. And my wife had tickets to a concert, and she was like, yo, you want to go to this concert? And I was like, sure. Went to the concert. I ended up fainting and falling on my head, and I got a severe concussion from it. So I didn't go to the gym for like probably like a good 5 years. And like, I mean, for the first year, watching someone ride a bike or watch somebody do physical activity actually caused my head to hurt, like watching them. And so it wasn't until I was like 36 that I started getting back into working out. Okay. And just in the last, like, I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been in the last like year. I've been really adamant about like trying to see results. Yeah. Like not just going to be like, okay, I'm gonna go and work off this or work this out. I'm like, no, I'm like determined to see some real substantial results, and I feel great. So my thing is it's trying to fight off not going to the gym, because now I'm so addicted to it. It's like it can kind of suck up a lot of your time and energy, but it's worth it. I mean, health is wealth. And so my routine is I'll go work out for an hour, maybe one day of cardio out of the week, but definitely at least 2 to 3 times in the sauna. Okay. And so the sauna allowing kind of getting all that cleansing out and then stretching in there as well. It helps with stretching versus like a dry stretch or like body's warmed up and you know what I mean? So those things are key, clutch, man.
Like going to the gym now. I definitely loved going to jiu-jitsu class, because like you're in a community and you're sort of held accountable, because like you're training with a certain person all the time, or you're training with a certain group, and people see and recognize you type of thing. So for me, it was like when I was doing that was when I was like addicted to like working out and sort of like getting in shape and everything, because you could see results and then you get better. And it's like that's the fun part.
There's a standard that has to be kept to be able to do it.
You know, so like that's when I was really having a lot of fun. And then like that's how I tore my knee too, so that's why I stopped. But then like going to the gym has been helping out, but I still miss that sort of that community part of it. I mean, that's why I think like CrossFit is really big, and sort of like the Soul Cycle stuff is really big, because it's like it adds in community, network, and everything. And I still love like watching combat sports, so I'm gonna have to like, you know, refresh my membership to that gym and like get back into jiu-jitsu and everything. Because like I used to walk into places and be like, I could take that dude. If someone gets rowdy, it's like I could take the, you know, like there's one person I can't take, but it's like, but now it's like, man, if I get to a fight, man, my back throw out, like I can't do nothing. So I'm like, I got to get back in shape to where, you know, my body just feels good all the time.
Word, man. I hear that. Now, so you got the book. What's the latest on the project? We're gonna kind of.
So yeah, really just the book is coming out February 11th, and then you can definitely find out more about that on my Instagram, Detour 303. But then I have my exhibit that's currently up, the 5 Pointers. Red Bull presents the 5 Pointers. That's up until January 20th. At Redline Contemporary Art Center. And then I have maybe a couple other random projects going on, but nothing too formal. Really, it's just, trying to do a random jam session with the band and a bunch of other people that I wanted to get involved with the show, but I couldn't. So we want to do like a tiny desk sort of session at the gallery with a bunch of people and sort of just jam out that night with all the weird instruments.
Nice.
So we want to do that sometime in January. But really, it's just the book is like the next big thing that I'm sort of working on. I have a couple of dates I'm working out with a couple of bookstores like Tattered Cover and some other ones that I'll announce soon. But really, if you go to my Instagram, you'll be able to see the announcements. Or I believe I made the website betheartistbook.com, where you're able to sort of see like the actual contents of the book and everything, and pre-order it, because we can pre-order it now on Amazon. And yeah, learning about how to get my stuff in the Amazon physical stores and everything. It's like a lot of that stuff is numbers. So
it sounds like once the book is actually in your hands, then you'll be able to start steamrolling like what direction and really get it going.
Yeah, but you can definitely order it on Amazon, pre-order it on Amazon now. Released on February 11th, and then I got a couple big projects with a couple developers doing some stuff in Aurora. So I have a couple murals in Aurora coming up mid next year. I'm doing a trip to hopefully Argentina beginning of January, where I'm going to do a mural or two. And then next year is going to be really, it's like, it's really open right now in terms of just like these projects. I'm trying to dial it in, but really it's just like still in the pencil stage. I just penciled it in, so don't want to confirm too much of anything right now. But I mean, that's the life of the artist right now. It's like you just throw everything up in the air, and then what sticks, what doesn't type of thing. You just keep throwing stuff in the air, and that you want to do. So really, it's just like the first half of the year is sort of kind of booked with those big projects, and then the second half is still up for debate right now. I'm trying to do Korea. So hopefully if I can I was supposed to do it this year, but the venue change held me back. But this upcoming year, I'm trying to do Korea sometime in probably July or something, to do a residency out there. And that'll be like my first time in Asia.
That'll be huge.
Yeah, just like going out there, doing some murals, doing a couple of interactive pieces, working with the arts community out there, because, it's like... just got to get in places where you're just like you're uncomfortable and figure it out type of thing. So like
opens up doors for learning more and techniques.
Trying something new, man. That's the biggest thing right now, is trying something new, just getting out there in a place I've never been before, and want to try to do at least Australia or West Africa. So like those are two other places where I want to figure out how to get into those spaces and figure out how to work with the arts community out there. Yeah, because I was just like doing a little random YouTube rabbit hole type of thing. It's like you watch one video and something else comes up, and I guess they're building like a whole new city near Lagos. And it's like it's in the water. You know how like Dubai built like a city in the water? It's like they're doing that, extending the city, but they're doing that by reclaiming part of the sea, which is really like, I just went through a couple of videos on that on YouTube, and I thought that was just really interesting. So Lagos is making some moves, so I'm like, I gotta go there and just check it out type of thing. So I'm like, how do I get my art on one of those new buildings in the sea? So like that,
like a real graffiti artist.
Gotta
get my shit up.
Yeah, trying to have the first artwork in that part of the sea. So it's like trying to do as much stuff like that as possible.
Cool, man. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm glad I wish you the best. More prosperity in the future, my brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So, we're going to wrap it up. I really do appreciate you coming on and using this as a platform whenever you got something coming up, or you want to, promote anything, or when the book comes out, please feel free to come back.
Definitely.
And we'll set something up. This is Wear the Crown podcast, featuring myself, Rasta, Ronnie, and my man Blood Pressure.
Yes, sir.
With our guest Thomas Evans, aka Detour 303, which you can see on Instagram. Please check out the NagooseOrderCO.com, where you can check out the Rasta Ronnie rolling papers, Please check out my man Blood Pressure at KG&U every
Wednesday nights 10 p.m. to 12 Mountain Time, Sundays 10 p.m. to 12, and sometimes on Saturdays from 1 to 4 for Reggae Bloodlines.
Yes, and also want to shout out our sponsors or semi-sponsors, Peak Dispensary, as well as Verde Dispensary, as well as 75 Farms. Please, you can find all sorts of good organic cannabis grown at these locations, and yeah, you already know. So give thanks and praise. Appreciate you. Much love. Please tune in to Wear the Crown. Be sure to like and subscribe and review. That's how we keep this thing moving and keeping it on the top of the list. Give thanks.
Every time.